Let's get right to it. Number 7. Cyclops. You've probably heard of the Cyclops, the giant with a single eye in the middle of his forehead. The most famous one is Polyphemus from the Odyssey, a not-so-bright giant who gets drunk, gets tricked, and then gets blinded by Odysseus, all because he fell for the classic ancient prank. Someone told him their name was Nobody, so when he screamed for help, he had to shout, "Nobody is hurting me." Ancient dad jokes at their finest. But here's where it gets weird. Many Cyclops legends are set around Crete, an island where there were never any 20-foot giants. But there were some strange fossils ancient Greek explorers may have stumbled upon. Skulls of dwarf mammoths, creatures no bigger than a large dog, but with huge skulls and a giant hole in the center. That hole, not for an eye, it's where the trunk goes. But if you had never seen an elephant before, that big central socket might look like a single eye. So what do? They imagine a monster, a giant with one eye and a bad attitude. And thus, the Cyclops was born, not from terror, but from a misunderstood elephant skull. Number 6. Little Green Men. On the night of August 21st, 1955, something strange visited the small town of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. According to reports, 11 people, mostly from the Sutton family, claimed they saw mysterious creatures. They weren't aliens in silver suits. They looked more like goblins, short around 3 feet tall, with long arms that nearly touched the ground, bulging heads and big, pointy ears. One family friend, Billy Ray Taylor, said he saw them arrive in a metallic craft that dropped from the sky like a stone. At first, the family laughed at him until the dogs started barking. When they went outside to check, they saw it. A creature standing in the shadows. The men grabbed their rifles and fired, but the creature didn't fall. The bullets seemed to have no effect. Over the next few hours, the creatures peered into windows, stood on the roof, and stalked the house. Finally, the family fled in terror to the local police station. Police expected a drunken mess. But here's the twist. The Suttons didn't drink. No alcohol on the premises. Just spent shell casings and one seriously terrified family. So what were they? Some say aliens. Others say owls. Specifically, great horned owls, which under the right lighting and enough panic, can look surprisingly like the little green men in the police sketches. Whether it was extraterrestrials or just really angry birds. The story of the Hopkinsville goblins became one of the most famous UFO encounters in U.S. history. Number 5. Voodoo zombies. Before zombies were brain-eating monsters on TV, they were something else entirely. Voodoo zombies were humans said to be brought back from the dead, not to feast on flesh, but to work. These zombies didn't always rot or bite. They shuffled, stared blankly, and followed orders. They were said to be slaves of a voodoo master, raised from the grave and stripped of their will. For centuries, stories told of dark rituals where a sorcerer could turn a corpse into a living puppet. Even stranger, some legends claimed that zombies could recover, as if one day they just stopped being dead. That sounds made up, but in the 1980s, a Harvard researcher named Wade Davis traveled to Haiti to investigate. What he found was bizarre, but not supernatural. According to Davis, the people weren't actually dead. They were poisoned. The poison? Tetrodotoxin, a powerful neurotoxin from puffer fish. It can paralyze a person so deeply they appear completely lifeless. The effect wears off in a few days, and when the person wakes up, they're buried, disoriented, and completely at someone else's mercy. That's when the real horror starts. The zombie is kept under control using psychoactive drugs, dosed again and again, until they stop resisting and do whatever they're told. Number 4, the Jersey Devil. Deep in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, there's a legend that refuses to die. It's the story of the Jersey Devil, a creature said to have bat wings, hooves, and a long horse-like face. According to the most popular version, this monster started life as the 13th child of a woman named Mrs. Leeds. She was so tired of giving birth. She cursed the baby before it was even born, and when the child arrived, it wasn't human. It was a flying beast that screeched, flapped its wings, and disappeared into the woods. Spooky? Yes, but this tale didn't really go viral until the 20th century. And even then, most of the hype came from outside New Jersey. Over the years, sightings have described the creature with long legs, huge wings, and a long head. But here's the thing. That sounds a lot like something very real. The sandhill crane. Tall, skinny, with big wings and a weird face. Not exactly nightmare fuel, but close enough to confuse someone in a foggy forest. Still, others believe the Jersey Devil wasn't a bird at all, but a bat. A very specific kind of bat, the hammerhead bat. It checks all the boxes. Bat wings, long snout, kind of terrifying. The only catch, hammerhead bats live in Africa, not New Jersey. So unless one hitched a ride across the Atlantic. Number 3, vampires. Today, vampires are smooth, stylish, and weirdly charming. They wear nice suits, drink blood like wine, and avoid sunlight like introverts at a beach party. But the original vampire stories? Much darker, much grosser. Back then, a village would be hit by a mysterious wave of deaths. No one knew why. So naturally, they blamed the dead guy. They dig up a recently buried person. And what do they find? Longer hair, longer nails, blood around the mouth. Sometimes even scratch marks inside the coffin lid. Creepy? Yes. Supernatural? Not exactly. Modern historians have a simpler explanation. People didn't understand disease. They didn't understand how death works either. Take cholera, for example. It could wipe out a whole village in days. But to people back then, it looked like a curse, or maybe an undead visitor. And the body changes? Totally normal. Hair and nails don't really grow after death. The skin just shrinks, making them look longer. Blood on the mouth? Could be natural purging of fluids as the body decomposes. Scratches in the coffin? Maybe that person wasn't dead when they were buried. Yep, premature burial was a thing. Number 2, sirens. Myths love the idea of half fish, half human creatures. And usually, mermaids get the good par, beautiful, mysterious, and mostly harmless. But their cousins, the sirens? Not so nice. Back in Homer's Odyssey, sirens weren't sexy sea ladies lounging on rocks. They were kind of a mess. Part woman, part bird, sometimes with fish bits thrown in for good measure. Wings, claws, maybe even beaks. And their secret weapon? A song so haunting it could lure sailors to their deaths. Odysseus wanted to hear it for himself, so his crew plugged their ears with wax. Well, he got tied to the mast like a curious maniac. All vibes, no survival instinct. But where did the siren myth come from? Modern researchers think ancient sailors were probably just seeing manatees or dugongs. Big sea mammals with flipper-like arms, soft faces, and the ability to turn their heads like humans. Now imagine, you're starving, dehydrated, sleep-deprived, and suddenly you see a blurry figure with arms waving in the water. Is it a mermaid? A sea spirit? Or just a big, blubbery ocean potato? Mix in a few hallucinations and some lonely sailors. Boom. Instant sea legend. So next time you hear about a siren's deadly song, just remember, it might have been a manatee minding its business, and a sailor who needed a nap. Number 1, hydras. In Greek mythology, the hydra was a terrifying serpent with multiple heads. Every time Heracles chopped one off, 2 more grew back. It seemed unbeatable until his nephew Iolaus had the clever idea to burn the neck stumps, finally putting the beast down. Sounds like pure fantasy, right? Well, maybe not entirely. In real life, there are snakes with more than one head. It's a rare condition called polycephaly. And though these animals don't usually live long, they do exist. A 2- or 3-headed snake could easily have shocked ancient onlookers, especially if seen at night, in a swamp, or during some ritual. From there, the story could have grown, passed on, exaggerated, mythologized. One weird snake becomes a monster with regenerating heads. And the regeneration part, also not pure fiction. Some reptiles can regrow lost body parts, like tails. So it's not a huge leap to imagine someone mistaking that ability for a head growing back.